Welcome into the PFF podcast. It is your QB analysis edition, the big time throwcast. Steve Palazzolo here, along with Zac Robinson, former NFL quarterback and college football star. We're going to be breaking down all things quarterbacks, and today's a very special episode. Usually on a given week, you guys are going to want to tune in because it's, 4 or 5 quarterbacks that we're going to break down in depth, really go behind the scenes on what made, say, a great game by Derek Carr, or why maybe a Carson Wentz struggled, just using those as an example. So you're going to love that during the season. But right now, everybody's favorite, we're going to rank quarterbacks. And you guys can follow along. By the time you're listening to this, it should be up on ProFootballFocus.com. If it's not, it will be shortly. Zach and I came up with our own top 32 with the help of PFF grades and a little bit of intuition. How difficult is a guy's job? What is he asked to do? Perhaps a little bit of injury concern with a guy like Andrew Luck, or giving him a pass for injuries. So check that out at ProFootballFocus.com. Top 32, we put them into tiers, and we're going to break that down right here in a minute. Before we get into it, though, want to remind you guys about our friends over at PlayDraft.com or Draft in the App Store. Fantastic little app, great way to play fantasy football. Normally they run best ball leagues that you could do this massive quick draft and have a great season. Don't even have to worry about your team. But for this week, they're rolling out a $50,000 head-to-head fantasy football bracket tournament that kicks off right here week 1. The format pits you against another draft user each week in a live snake draft. Beat the user you're matched against, and you advance to the next round. That is it. There's only room for 2,048 entries at $28 a pop. That's $28, so we'd suggest heading over to the draft lobby right now to reserve your spot before the bracket fills. The final 512 survivors, that's about a quarter of the people that play, they'll win cash, with the champ taking home a cool $10,000. All new users signing up through our link are eligible to get a free $3 entry with their first deposit. When you go to playdraft.com, you make your first deposit, please use the promo code PFF. It is one of my favorite new ways to play fantasy football. All right, Zach, we're talking the top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. Everybody loves to debate this stuff. Let's just touch on a little bit what went into this whole thing, and maybe you and I each made our own list. We always put our numbers aside blindly, heavily influenced by PFF grades and things that you've seen, scheme, and how a guy plays, and what other factors did you kind of look at when putting this ranking together?
Yeah, I think some of it comes down to your preference and style of play. When you get down to really past like 12, 13, kind of in the teens and low 20s, all those guys have different types of skill sets, and it really comes down to what's your preference and kind of the guy that you like to see play, because there's not much separating a lot of those guys. So it was cool to kind of just go side by side and see exactly how we kind of comparatively stack up these guys against each other.
Yeah, I think we put them into tiers, and I think the tiers is very important. Quarterback play is not just this linear, you're always going to be number 1, you're always going to be number 8, you're always going to be number 17, and it's not really a cop-out, but that's our way of saying, look, the guys, like you're saying, the guys at like 17 to 24 in any given year could be interchangeable. The guys from 10 to 16 can be interchangeable, whatever it might be, because so much of quarterback play will depend on offensive line, receivers, supporting cast, all of that fun stuff. So it's always interesting. It's always fun to debate. So let's get right into it. You and I both had the same numbers. What, 1 and 2?
1 and 2
were the same.
Yep.
And on the site, you'll see this tier 1, the elite quarterbacks. We narrowed it to 2. I don't think this will come as a big surprise, but we had Tom Brady number 1, New England Patriots, and Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers number 2. Why are these two guys just above everyone else?
Yeah, I think obviously Tom Brady is Tom Brady. We saw him at his absolute best the last time we saw him play. I think just those two guys, the mental toughness from Brady to go along with just his precision accuracy. He was the most accurate quarterback in some of our advanced charting from last season, and just the precision that he has with the ball, his ability to maneuver the pocket, those things that you just really can't teach or do anything. I mean, the instincts for the game are on a whole nother level. Then you look at Rodgers, and similar type deal with precision passer accuracy at all levels. And then you add the playmaker that he is, and the out of structure stuff. And you'd like to see him stay in structure maybe a few times more a game, but that's kind of what makes him him. And those two guys it's not miles ahead, but it's a pretty significant distance ahead in my mind, those two guys versus the next crop.
Yeah, the funny thing about Brady, obviously he's a guy that stays in the pocket, wins within the pocket, and he's actually looked at guys like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and some other QBs who do good stuff outside the pocket and extending plays. And we've talked about this quite a bit on the podcast, how Brady has actually made an effort to not emulate Aaron Rodgers. He can't really emulate those guys that are much more athletic than him, but he's made it a point to maybe not throw one away here and there and let's extend a play and let's do a little bit more. And you've seen an increase in his passer rating, not only on plays outside the pocket, but also plays that just last over 2.5 seconds, that just are extended plays. Brady's done a much better job of that in recent years. And like we said with Rodgers, we're also a year removed from a 2015 season where he just did not look right. He just was not the same guy. Perhaps it was because they lost Jordy Nelson, and Jordy was such a good receiver for him because he could get open quickly and helped with those within the offense types of quick decisions. And then early 2016, we were sitting there saying, what's wrong with Aaron Rodgers? And it was really two bad games that he had against the Minnesota Vikings and against the Dallas Cowboys. But since that point, he lit it up pretty much. He got back to Aaron Rodgers style. And there's definitely points in Aaron Rodgers' career where you say, okay, 2011 for much of the year, 2014 for much of the year, you can actually say, is that the best quarterback play we've ever seen?
Right.
The way Rodgers played. Because his combination of the ability to make special throws, avoid bad decisions, win inside and outside the pocket, and win pre-snap. Zach, have we ever seen a guy that can win pre-snap like Rodgers with the physical ability that he has?
Every time you watch him play, I keep going back, and obviously we don't have the same type of eye for some of the guys, the great ones in the past, and just didn't look at it in the type of lens we see these guys in. But it's hard to see a guy that's ever been as talented as Rodgers when you mix all those things that you mentioned together. So he might be the best physical and kind of just instinctual player that we've ever seen at the position, and to go along with an arm and all the stuff you mentioned. So we're definitely, he's still got some good football left too. We're in for a treat, this next however long he's able to extend his career. I think he's 33, so he's still got a good chunk of his career left. And if he can get Tom Brady out of the way, maybe he can win a few more Super Bowls.
Yeah, and as for Brady, he turns 40 this year. Last year was his top-graded season of his entire career. Just the best work we've ever seen as far as his decision-making, his accuracy. He was number one in our quarterback accuracy charting, where we were charting ball location on every single pass. Did you put it on the perfect, right on the front number where a guy can catch and run, versus putting it on the back number? We're charting that perfect accuracy. He was number one there. So a guy that at 40 years old should not be playing at that level. At some point probably has to decline, but man, he does take care of himself and has been able to improve later in his career. And like you said, Rodgers still has many years of prime football left. So I think it's pretty clear. Brady and Rodgers 1 and 2. Last 2 years as far as PFF quarterback ranking, Brady number 2 in 2015, number 1 in 2016. Rodgers in his really bad off year in 2015 ranked 7th in PFF quarterback grades. Last year ranked 3rd, just behind Matt Ryan. But if you do take those couple games out early in the season, right up there behind Brady down the stretch. So Brady and Rodgers up in that top tier. Okay, looking at that next group of quarterbacks, the next tier just below that elite tier, and I think any one of these guys in any given season, either throw for throw or statistically, could absolutely play like one of the top 1 or 2 quarterbacks in the league. So it's not a massive drop-off here. I'll read them off, and then we'll go through them. Drew Brees came in at number 3, Andrew Luck number 4, Matt Ryan number 5, Ben Roethlisberger number 6, Russell Wilson number 7, and then Phillip Rivers number 8. Zach, which of these guys, stood out to you that we differed on, or guys that just stand out here in general in this group?
Yeah, I think our biggest difference throughout this group was Drew Brees and Andrew Luck. I had Drew Brees at 3. You had him at number 5, and I had Drew Brees at 5, and you had him at 3. You're kind of splitting hairs with either of those guys, and then you look at Matt Ryan and Ben Roethlisberger. That was our next kind of big difference. I had him at 7, you had him at 4, and then I have Roethlisberger at number 4. I just think more so his playmaking style, I think, is why I lean more towards Andrew Luck and Ben Roethlisberger as kind of those next 3 and 4 guys. Obviously, you're going to get maybe some more turnovers with those guys, but the out of structure and the playmaking ability is kind of what sets apart those guys for me over the other guys.
Yeah, so the thing about Luck, we'll talk about Luck and Brees for a second. I just love Brees' consistency, even at his age, and the fact that he's getting so much older. With Luck, coming off of his best year, 91.6 PFF grade, number 4 in the NFL. Also 1 year removed from a disastrous 2015. He did miss some time due to injury that season, but also I think maybe played a little bit banged up, but it was bad. 52.2 overall grade, 36th in PFF grades. But I think with Luck last year, if you had asked me a couple of years ago, I was the guy saying, no, Luck's not really a top 8 or top 10 guy yet. He's just not there yet. He doesn't take care of the ball. Last year, he finally took care of the ball better, even though it did not show in the interception numbers. And I know you always make the point about Luck and just how difficult it is to play his style of football.
Right.
And then as far as Roethlisberger and Ryan, Roethlisberger a year ago at this point, I probably would have had easily in the top 4. 2014 and 15, I think probably the best 2 years of his entire career. The deep ball has been exceptional. Decision-making was better. But when you look at Roethlisberger last year, definitely some duds in there. It did not take care of the ball very well. It got away with a lot of bad passes, even though the stats didn't show it. And especially on the road, he did not look very good at all. With Matt Ryan, if you just ask me in isolation, where does Matt Ryan rank, I probably say 6, 7, 8 in the NFL, and I put him down at 4, probably a little skewed by last year's career year, but I think it's just when you stack him up against the other guys, feel pretty good about, Matt Ryan and his career and how consistent he's been.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point. I think the guys that, the last 2 guys on that list, Russell Wilson and Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers, we've talked about a bunch, just the appreciation for the difficulty of what he's had to have really throughout his whole career, and especially the last few years with the offensive line issues and injuries to his playmakers. So he's one of the more underappreciated guys, but definitely belongs in this category of top 8 guys. He's sitting at number 8 for me and 9 for you. So he's a guy that just year to year, really play to play. You don't know what you're going to get, but the guy makes some magic happen. And so he's definitely one to look for, especially this season. They've got all the pieces right, and they're trying to get him kind of one last playoff push here on the downside of his career.
Yeah, Rivers is probably the guy that took the biggest jump in our rankings compared to his PFF grade. Number 13 in 2015 at 83 overall, 18th last year at 80.1 overall, and we give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit, because when you watch him on tape and you see the walls collapsing from all angles, that's his offensive line. That was last year especially. Felt like he was getting pressured from all angles on every play. He could still do some amazing stuff when given time in the pocket. Rejuvenated this year, perhaps, with Ken Wisenhunt coming back. He and Wisenhunt combined to have an excellent season in 2013. So that is our second tier. Upper tier quarterbacks, still very, very good starters in the NFL. It is difficult making these hard cutoffs sometimes when we're doing this tiering process, but we'll explain the reasoning as we go. Let's get into the next group, your solid starters, your good starters. And again, I'll read them off and then we'll go through them. Number 9, Derek Carr. Number 10, Cam Newton. Number 11, actually tied for 11th, Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford. Number 13 now, Jameis Winston. 14, Marcus Mariota. 15, Kirk Cousins. And 16, Carson Palmer. Again, if you guys want to see this entire list and get some amazing stats on all of these guys, amazing stats that we pulled out of PFF Elite, our number one product, go check it out at profootballfocus.com. Zach, what do you think of this next tier of quarterback? What stands out here with this group of guys?
Yeah, I mean, obviously very, very solid players. Cam Newton, I would bump up to be the next guy just below that second tier. And I think the biggest difference for us was Carson Palmer. I had him at 20 actually, which would have dropped him into the next tier below. But you have him at 12. Can see why. 2015, great season. I think we started to see 2016 the trend downward a little bit. He's getting older. The arm may not be quite what it is. He's always been a guy willing to challenge pretty much any part of the defense, perimeter, downfield, and you're seeing that his arm is not quite as accurate and not quite as strong, leading to some more turnovers, and we'll see kind of if he can bounce back this year. But, the guys in the middle, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, those are the guys we're expected to take a big jump, even though grade-wise have been a little bit lower last season. But you got a bunch of studs here. Dak Prescott, who would have thought we would both be, consistently on page saying that he's a, top 12 quarterback. So pretty incredible with what that guy's been able to do.
Yeah, I definitely want to see Dak duplicate last year, but man, so impressive as a rookie. Cam Newton's an interesting one. Number 5 overall quarterback in our grades in 2016. His MVP season, when you include the playoffs, he was a 90.1 overall. Last year, a 76.1, 22nd overall. I know he battled some injuries last year and all that fun stuff, but similar to Carson Palmer, I think when you look at Cam, the top end, and it happened to be for both guys, it happened to both be in 2015, the top end can be exceptional, whether it's Cam, whether it's Carson Palmer, but consistently throughout their career just hasn't always been there. I want to see Cam put together another season like that. That was, if you look at his year-by-year grades as part of PFF Edge or Elite, and go year by year for Cam, 79.9, 83.3, 79.5, 83.5, 90.1, and then 76.1. That 90.1 really sticks out as the anomaly. And Carson Palmer is really the same way. 93 overall grade in 2015. By far the best of his career. The only other one that we had that was close was not. It wasn't even close. It was 83.9 was his best in 2007. Yeah. So I always say Carson Palmer just regressed into Carson Palmer, but maybe I am skewed a little bit because of that 2015, and I think that there's still some remnants there. Still playing under Bruce Arians in a favorable system for him. But your point, when we went back and watched a lot of Carson Palmer tape this offseason, the arm just did not look right, especially for that vertical system that you really need good zip on. So I think this is that class that can truly fluctuate a lot. Jameis Winston could take that next step here, or we're expecting him to take that next step. Marcus Mariota, we're expecting him to take that next step as well. And Matthew Stafford right in the middle there. What are your thoughts on Stafford?
Stafford's up there.
Where he lands here?
I was maybe a little bit higher on Stafford going through this. I had him at 10, just above Derek Carr and just behind Cam Newton. I like Stafford. I like the kind of the more disciplined approach that they're taking with him and what Jim Bob Cooter's done there. We've talked about it on the pod, just kind of simplifying things and getting the ball out of his hand. He's got such a unique and talented arm, as talented as anybody in the NFL, so you can see why you want to try to do all these things, but simplify the game a little bit. He's never had a great offensive line in front of him, so getting the ball out, some simpler concepts, I think that's been really good for him. And then the other guy that kind of sticks out in this tier is Kirk Cousins. Where does he go? Is he going to be a guy that can kind of elevate some guys around him? We're going to see just what he's made of this season, because they're down playmaker wise. They lose Sean McVay, so he's the guy in that tier that of these guys could potentially drop down to the next tier. I don't really see him taking that jump up to the top 10, but definitely going to be interesting to see just how this whole thing plays out for Kirk Cousins.
You can listen to our much more detailed breakdown of both Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins on our last QB analysis podcast. You can see it's titled Matthew Stafford Contract Breakout Regression Candidates. Who were our breakout and regression candidates? Go check out that episode to hear. Okay, that's your solid group of starters. Again, it's really tough to put hard lines in between all of these tiers, but we're going to do it. And let's check out the next tier. I think this is colored in yellow in my spreadsheet here. That's the middle of the pack. These are your average guys, and these are guys who I think, maybe more than any other group, are so dependent on those around them. Whether you're talking about receivers, elevating them statistically, or offensive linemen helping to elevate them statistically, or maybe even defenses helping to elevate them as far as wins and losses go, if you're a QB wins fan. But I think these are the quarterbacks that, if you put the right pieces in place around them, a lot of really good pieces, they can have a lot of success. But if they don't have the right pieces, things can get ugly. This is your, I don't know, I use the word average starter. I think average starter is probably pretty fair. And in any given year, it could go above average or below average, depending on the supporting cast. So this next tier, number 17, Andy Dalton. 18, Carson Wentz. 19, Sam Bradford. 20, Eli Manning. 21, tied for 21st, I should say, Tyrod Taylor and Alex Smith. And then 23, Joe Flacco. And 23, Jay Cutler. And 24, Joe Flacco. We weren't that far off on a lot of these guys.
No, these were good.
Yeah.
I think we were about one or two on each guy. Nobody sticks out that big. I guess one of the biggest gaps we had was Eli. I had him 18. You had 22, and then Dalton. I had 15. You had 18. I've just being around Andy and seeing just how precise of a passer he is, and then going back and watching more and more film from last season. I think that they've done a great job of getting guys around him, and we've seen him in the past when he's had Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu and a healthy Tyler Eifert. The guy can absolutely pitch it around and is as accurate as anybody when he's confident going where he's going with the football. So I think it's going to be interesting. The offensive line, now that's a different piece. So I've always kind of grouped Andy in the top part of this group and maybe even at the bottom end of the other group. But he's one to watch for. Carson Wentz, where does he go from a solid year number one, ranked 20 in the system, 28 or 78.3 grade last year, kind of right in the middle of where he stands. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. Then Eli Manning, arms deteriorating. He still makes some poor decisions. At any given time, his arm could be feeling good, and he can make a ton of throws still. So he's a little bit higher than I guess you had him on this list.
Yeah, with Eli, I can see that. I mean, I can see how he can have success, and he is the prime example right now. If Odell Beckham Jr., if he can come back healthy, I don't know what his status is as of now. If he's healthy, if Sterling Shepard's healthy, Brandon Marshall added to the mix, he's that classic guy in this tier that could put up really good stats and be fine. But you definitely are seeing the declining skills, and he just has some disastrous games. Decision-making and accuracy is pretty bad. Andy Dalton is my poster boy for that. The guy that ranks number 10 in PFF grades and statistically was outstanding in 2015, the year that you mentioned with all of those playmakers. He's going to be interesting when you compare. They've added playmakers, guys like John Ross. If he can come back healthy, you still have A.J. Green there, a healthy Tyler Eifert. He has them, but that offensive line, one of the biggest question marks in the entire NFL heading into the season. So we'll see how he does with that supporting cast. Yes, Carson Wentz and Sam Bradford back-to-back on the list here, Zach.
Yeah.
Both in Philadelphia at the same time. I got to see them in training camp last year, throw the ball side to side. That was my takeaway. That was the time I took away, like, Bradford throws the ball really, really well, because I know Wentz has a cannon, but you just watch that, like, tight spiral and smooth motion that Bradford has. I don't know. He's that guy. I'm a bit of a Sam Bradford apologist, but I had a tough time putting him much higher on this list because I have yet to see him elevate his teammates around him, but would love to see that perfect supporting cast for Sam Bradford at some point in his career.
I'm with you. I mean, he's he's the number one overall pick for a reason. He's very, very accurate with the football. It's just some of the playmaking outside of structure. He's played in a bunch of different systems, obviously a bunch of different places. So it hasn't been necessarily easy compared to some other number one picks and what they've been able to do. But I'm with you in terms of just a guy that's a pure thrower of the football. I mean, it looks as good as anybody with him throwing the ball. So if he can get stuff like Andy Dalton kind of around him, very similar type players and how precise they are and how they dominate the pre-snap process and all those things. So going to be interesting to see if he can kind of take another step this year. Last year was great, especially the first, I think, 8 weeks of the season was a top 5 graded quarterback. So if he can continue to build on some of that stuff and some of those throws he made under pressure last year were some of the best throws of the season.
Yeah, he definitely has has the talent, and we shall see if he can take that next step this year. Alex Smith in the middle of this. This is that group where I told you there's a lot of style preference and everything. Joe Flacco maybe at his best, when he's playing his aggressive style, can move up into that next group. Alex Smith is on that more conservative tier, and because he's so conservative, sometimes hard for you to move him up because you kind of know what you're going to get. So Tyrod Taylor has some boom or bust to his game, but I think that's what keeps him down here, even though the last couple of years he's graded extremely well in our system. Any other things here? Jay Cutler, Joe Flacco. I think this is the right spot for them, right? Right in the middle average?
I think it makes sense. Having Tyrod Taylor and Alex Smith back-to-back is a pretty funny thing to see, just two contrasting styles of play. But Cutler, I was a little bit higher. I had 21, he had 25, I think, with Adam Gase and everything that they've got going on. Seems like they got a good rapport and all those things. I think that he can get the most out of Cutler. Obviously, there's going to be the turnovers and some of those types of plays, but he's still a guy that if he needs to and you're down in the second half, he's a guy that can throw you back into a game. I think that kind of keeps him in that category and in kind of the high teens, low 20s.
Jay Cutler been playing with that potential label for
how long?
12 years in the NFL. One of these years he's going to hit his stride with that big arm, Jay Cutler. Again, check out all of these things over at profootballfocus.com. And now just want to take a quick break to tell you about our friends over at DraftKings.com. It is finally game week. Football season is here, and there is no better way to get closer to the game than with DraftKings 1 week fantasy football. To celebrate, DraftKings is hosting a $100,000 contest this Sunday that is totally free to enter. If you draft the perfect lineup, though, you can also win $1 billion. That's right, $1 billion. With DraftKings, there's so many ways to play. You could choose between public contests with big cash prizes or private contests where you can compete against a group of friends. DraftKings also has beginner and casual contests as well as some of the more advanced games. The best part is you get to draft a new team each week with no commitment. So get to DraftKings.com now. Use the promo code PFF to play in DraftKings' free contest with $100,000 of prizes on the line. And if you can draft the very perfect lineup, you will win $1 billion. That's promo code PFF for your shot to win $1 billion this Sunday. The contest is totally free to enter, so why not try? DraftKings, the game inside the game. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. All right, Zach, we're down to the bottom tier of the NFL. And I have to say, last year when I was doing this ranking, we did a preseason ranking, the Joe Flaccos and Eli Mannings of the world and Jake Cutlers of the world, I feel like they were more in this 24, 25, 26 range. This year, I felt like they were a little bit higher just because some of the names that are starting this season in the NFL. So I'll read off the names and then we will go through them. So we're at number 25, which is Brian Hoyer. Number 26, Blake Bortles. 27, Jared Goff. 28, Tom Savage. 29, Trevor Siemian. 30, Mike Glennon. 31, Josh McCown. There is one NFL starter who will remain unranked, and that is DeShone Kizer of the Cleveland Browns. Simply not enough information to rank the rookie, though we've talked about him quite a bit on the podcast, and I do suggest that you go back and listen to the archives, all of our preseason quarterback reviews, very detailed breakdown of Kizer. And if you're a Browns fan, you absolutely want to hear it because Zach did train DeShone Kizer this offseason, has some great insight on him. But we can't rank him here. So anybody in this bottom tier, Zach, that stands out to you, or guys, I don't think we differed a whole lot on this group either.
Right, yeah, this is kind of the tier that either the guys that kind of a last chance of starting with Blake Bortles, and then you got a Jared Goff in there that you're expecting to hopefully take another step, and then the rest of the guys are kind of, your spot starters, more backup types when you get to Savage, Simeon, Glennon, and McCown and Hoyer. We've seen Hoyer play some really good football, especially last season before he got hurt. And then in years past, there's a great stat that Sam Monson's put out there last season. His splits from the beginning of the season, I think, until October, and then from October on, it's passer rating wise, you get about a 20-point difference in Brian Hoyer.
Career. That's for his entire career. He's Mr. First half of the year.
I don't understand it. It's crazy because he's got some really good football in him, and then you get some bad decisions, and they seem to just pile up over and over. So this group's it kind of is what it is. They're all obviously still good players. I think Josh McCown is surprising that he's starting there just with that situation there. I don't think he should be. I think he probably knows he shouldn't be either, but. That's the situation that it is, and the rest of the guys, Jared Goff's the guy that we liked coming out, and now he's got some better stuff around him. They trade for Sammy Watkins. He's got offensive guys, quarterback type guys in that building now. So we'll just see kind of what he can do when everything's right around him, and if he can take a next step.
So yeah, we'll start with Goff. We did both like him coming out. His situation is much better this season. I could absolutely see him taking that step forward. The thing I've always struggled with Goff, though, I don't know how high that step could even get. I don't know if he gets up into that, ever gets up into that like top 10 to 15 range. Maybe he peaks at 15, but he certainly needs to play better than he did last season. You mentioned Josh McCown. Would you start Christian Hackenberg there? I mean, I know they want to figure out what they have in him, but I think they secretly know, and that it's not very good.
Right. I think you got to go with McCown, and then I know they listed Petty as the 2 on the depth chart, and that's exactly how it should be. He outplayed Hackenberg by a mile this preseason, and really every time he stepped on. So you know what you got with Hackenberg. You missed. It was a swing and a miss. It was a very, very big reach in the second round. For a guy that, was a borderline draftable prospect to begin with. So his situation stinks for him because he was thrown in there with these expectations that are just unrealistic. But there's still some good with Trevor Siemian. We've talked about him a ton on the podcast. He's when the looks clean and he knows where to go with the football. He's an accurate thrower, and he's got a very talented arm. Just when the movement and those types of things post snap can get him in trouble. But these guys, Bortles, got to see him. What is he? Is he what he was last year? Or can he kind of get back to some of the magic that he had late in the year in 2015? I guess we're going to find out.
2015, our number 19 graded quarterback. I know he had 35 touchdowns. Definitely had some inflated stats that year. Allen Robinson played at a ridiculous level, but last year, Bortles only 69.2 overall grade, 27th in the NFL. We mentioned it recently. It looks almost like he's got the yips, lacks confidence. How can he get back to at least some semblance of 2015? Because he showed a lot of promise. I don't think he needs to be as disastrous as he was at times last season. How does he get back at least close to what he was in 2015?
I think he can build upon that last preseason game when they started Henne. He came off the bench, and you could just kind of see a different fire in his game and how he was playing. I think it really comes down to between the ears and just playing free. He's never going to be a smooth passer, and he's going to have some misses here and there just by the way his levers of his arm are, that he can't really ever fix. So I think that's just kind of what he is. But if he just plays football and is kind of the instinctive playmaker that he is, he can. There's definitely still some good in his game, I think.
And so we mentioned Brian Hoyer, Tom Savage, and the decision to go with him over Deshaun Watson. I guess we could touch on the rookies a little bit, and we can give the Cliff Notes version on what we think of all of those guys. What do you think of the decision? We talked about this last week with, Savage being named the starter, but in the context of ranking and tiering and all that stuff, what could Savage's upside be? And even with a poor supporting cast, what looks to be a poor supporting cast in Houston on paper outside of DeAndre Hopkins, what are your expectations for Savage this year?
Yeah, they're not great. I think his ceiling is probably at the top end of this tier, kind of just a couple notches up to maybe where Hoyer's at 25 or around there. I don't think he's would be in the Flacco Cutler category in that next jump up. He's got some game, a little bit slow processing. He's not overly athletic to work outside of structure if things aren't going well. Like you said, supporting cast might not be that great, the offensive line. So, we'll see if he can hold on to the job or if they're going to turn it over to Deshaun Watson. Good thing for them, the defense, they're going to be playing in a lot of close games. As long as he's taking care of the football, he should have a chance.
And Mike Glennon in Chicago, going to be the starter. How long? How long is he holding?
Gosh, where are you at? What do you think? Are you thinking he holds on to it for half of the season, or?
I thought initially that's what I thought. I've reset my expectations to like 2 to 3 weeks.
I'm kind of more under 5 weeks. Definitely, I think there's too much to like with Trubisky, and I don't think we've talked about it before. He's not a guy that you're afraid to put out there as a rookie because his confidence might get hurt, or it's going to be moving way too fast for him. He's such a quick-minded player and reactionary, and obviously throws with great accuracy. So get him in there, get the reps. He's going to see a ton of different blitz looks. That was kind of his MO at UNC at times, was blitz recognition and identifying and getting the ball out. He struggled with a little bit, so he's only going to get better if he gets those reps, and that's just kind of where he's at. I think Glennon, couple weeks, 3 weeks, like you said, and then turn it over to Trubisky.
I do have a feeling that we'll be ranking Trubisky on these lists sooner rather than later. With the other rookies, we'll touch on Kaiser for a minute and Patrick Mahomes, two guys who might have as much upside as any of these quarterbacks. If everything clicks for either Kaiser or Mahomes, we're talking about two guys that could be very good players in this league. Let's discuss Kaiser first. He's the one rookie that's getting the job, second round pick in Cleveland. What are your expectations for your former protege?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, he's in a difficult situation. He's obviously the most talented guy on that team. You would like to maybe see, you would like Kessler to take the reins of it for at least the first 5-6 weeks of the season. They've got a tough schedule coming out, but he just wasn't able to hold on. And so Deshaun's in there. He's got a ton of talent, ton of upside. I think the system that they're trying to do fits perfectly with Hugh Jackson. We've talked about it a bunch just in terms of a fit. This was the ideal landing spot for him. So it's going to be interesting. There's going to be some ups, some downs. You've put it well. He does some of the harder things he can make look really easy, and then some of the quick game and just some of the simpler stuff he's got to refine and make it just more consistent on a down-to-down basis. But I do like they're giving him some more anticipatory throws. He's outside the numbers. Didn't have that a whole lot at Notre Dame. It was kind of a lot of concepts, reading out and holding the ball in the pocket, waiting for something to come open. So, it's going to be interesting how they mesh that thing up.
And with Patrick Mahomes, how quickly is he taking over for Alex Smith? I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen mid-season. I think Mahomes is going in there. Some of our Chiefs fans were asking for more Mahomes analysis. A quick stat: he led all quarterbacks in the preseason with 8 big-time throws. It's the namesake of the podcast. Have to mention it. 8 big-time throws for Patrick Mahomes. I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, every time he takes the field, I think he gets better, and you just see more and more traits and things that he does that's going to translate to him to be a guy that can truly carry of franchises. I mean, when you're looking at these tiers, I mean, he is a guy that could be in that second tier, years down the road because he has that type of ability. The thing that we talked about a bunch is, the undiscipline in the pocket and those things. I think he's gotten better. And then the more you watch it, it's almost like some of that stuff might not matter with how quickly he's able to see something and get the ball out of his hand from any angle, any arm position, and throw it accurately. So some of that, kind of undisciplinedness in the pocket may just be thrown out the window at times because he's so unique with his arm and body angles and those things. But of all these guys, that's my guy. He's my favorite quarterback to watch, probably other than Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady right now. I know it's big. I've watched multiple times his preseason tape, just trying to see how he'll fit in, and I don't know if it's going to be this year with Alex Smith and how good the defense is going to be, but man, I'm fired up to see that guy's future.
Yeah, he is fun to watch. We talked about it quite a bit last year in college, and the no-look throws and just so many things that he did that were unique but not reckless. I mean, there is some reckless play in his game that would be great if he could iron it out. But I always come back to, it's not as simple as saying, hey, never throw across your body. It's don't throw across your body if there's a defender there. I mean, there are times when you could throw across your body. It's not even a calculated risk. The problem is the Brett Favre in the NFC Championship across your body throw when there's a defender there. So that's what people might miss on Mahomes sometimes, I think. It's not that like you'll get in trouble when you do that. It's, do it at the right time. Don't make those bad decisions at the wrong time. Real quick, we talked about Tom Savage a little bit, but let's circle back and discuss Deshaun Watson. Is he going to take over sooner rather than later? And I do know that some of your concerns that you saw on tape last year have showed up so far in the preseason.
Yeah, I think I was expecting maybe a little bit more from him in the preseason. Basic looks from the defense for the most part, but they were giving him some tough looks. They were disguising, moving around on him. Even the first game, second game, third. I mean, he saw some tough looks that he's going to see if he's playing in the season. So some of those things of processing reads in the pocket and remaining a passer and not looking for a lane to run, those are tough habits to break, and he's going to need a lot of refinement, a lot of time just working in the pocket. So I think those reps he's going to be getting on the scout team against that Houston defense, the number one defense, is going to be valuable. But I don't think that he's, barring a disaster with Tom Savage, which obviously could very well happen. I don't know if we're going to see Watson this season. But with Savage, you just honestly don't know.
Yeah, I think we'll see all the rookies at some point. I really do.
Yeah.
Even Mahomes, I think they'll all be out there sooner rather than later. Patience sounds great on paper. We'll see how teams actually carry it out. So that's it. That's our top 31 plus some rookie discussion. Check it out over at profootballfocus.com. Also be sure to check out our two fantastic new products, PFF Edge and PFF Elite. All of the numbers that we used here today were powered by both Edge and Elite. You guys could have them for free. You could have PFF Edge for free. All you have to do is go to profootballfocus.com //DraftKings17 or profootballfocus.com /FanDuel17. Make your first deposit to either DraftKings or FanDuel, and you'll get a free PFF Edge. It is a fantastic value. You can get PFF Elite for free. All you have to do is leave us a 5-star review, and we'll pick somebody to win Elite for free. Somebody that leaves us a 5-star review. So leave your name, Twitter handle, and email address. Some way that we can get in touch with you in the review. We'll give one away every single week. Elite has a $200 value. The Elite members, I call them our first-class members here. We let them do whatever they want. We have a private Facebook group, so be sure to check out PFF Elite. Again, all the numbers that fueled our top 32 came from PFF Edge and Elite. We hope you guys stay with us all year. This is the Big Time Throwcast. It is now on the PFF Pro Podcast. We'll be with you probably every Wednesday or so, a little midweek analysis for your favorite quarterbacks. We will break down their games in great depth. Always appreciate the feedback we get from everybody. and the suggestions. So give us your suggestions next week after the Week 1 action. Say, hey, we want to see Russell Wilson's game, or we want to hear about Dak Prescott's game, or Aaron Rodgers' game, and we will take that into consideration and break down their games inside and out. So thanks again to everyone from listening. Be sure to hit up our sponsors that we mentioned earlier in the show, and we will talk to you guys next week.